Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
The Iranian Navy has just launched a major series of military drills in waters in and around the Strait of Hormuz. This passage is one of the most vital waterways in the world, one through which nearly a third of all the world's oil passes. This drill is widely seen as a demonstration of Iran's willingness to shut down the strait in response to incoming United States sanctions, a threat that Israel has responded to with promises of military consequences. Both Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman have made it clear, if Iran should shutter either the Strait of Hormuz or the Strait of Bab al-Mandeb, they would immediately deploy the IDF. This is also the center of the latest American-Iranian spat codified into Twitter by United States President Donald Trump. Trump promised that Iran would, quote, suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before, end quote, in all caps, if Iran should close the waterway. Shortly thereafter, however, Trump announced that he'd be willing to meet with Iran's president with no preconditions anytime. Iranian leaders and Trump's own shocked staffers seemed less than enthusiastic about such a sit-down. Iranian leaders have cited Trump's withdrawal from the JCPOA nuclear deal earlier this year as proof that the United States cannot even be trusted to stay in its own agreements. But threatening the world's oil flow seems to have struck a nerve with the White House. Now, it's unclear if the shuttering of the strait in and of itself would be considered an outright act of war, but having said that, such a move would violate previous agreements with Iran, unless Iran happened to be in a wartime scenario. This means that any American or Israeli attack on Iran would most likely need to come in the form of an international UN joint resolution. For now, these are said to be merely military drills, but they could be indicators of things yet to come. Citing the ongoing arson attacks in the form of incendiary balloons and kites from Gaza, Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman has halted all fuel shipments into the Gaza Strip. Israel has opened and closed the Kerem Shalom crossing numerous times in previous weeks for this very reason. Though some say that this only punishes the 2 million Palestinians already living in abject poverty under terrorist rule, Israeli brass believes that it's the only way to force Hamas into ceasing the violence. By now, hundreds of balloons, kites, and even condoms laced with explosives have been flown over the border into Israeli territory by Palestinians in Gaza. Hamas is said to have organized, or at least encouraged, a bulk of these attacks. Though they've claimed no casualties thus far, the intense summer heat has fanned those homemade bombs into literal flames. Thousands of Israeli lands have been torched as a result. The IDF has mulled using lethal force to halt these attacks, but fears of escalation into war seem to have held the army back from such means. Rocket attacks from Gaza have also pushed escalations to the breaking point over the last 2 months, with one IDF soldier killed on the border from Hamas sniper fire. For now, however, both sides seem to have backed away from the precipice of an all-out war. But others are worried that as the humanitarian crisis crumbles in the Strip, and as the people become more desperate, war may be the only path left. Following outcry from the Israeli Druze community regarding the recently passed nation-state law, Druze Knesset members, community leaders, and Prime Minister Netanyahu have come to an agreement. The fear in the community was that the clause enshrining Jewish self-determination only was discriminatory against minorities. It was found to be particularly offensive to the Druze in the military, several of whom have since resigned in protest. But now, a new bill has been agreed upon that has satisfied the majority of the Druze community. The outline of the plan, which will be introduced in the Knesset's winter session, falls into 3 points. 1. That the status of the Druze and Circassian communities will be officially recognized in Israel, as will the contributions of the Druze to the state's economy, military, culture, etc. Section 1 also goes on to offer solutions to housing, establishment of new communities as needed, and more. Section 2 anchors in law the eligibility of all minorities who serve in the military certain benefits. And finally, Section 3 is recognition in basic law the contribution of those from all faiths who have defended the nation. Regardless of the support, however, not everyone is assuaged. A protest set for Rabin Square on Saturday night is going on as scheduled, and Zionist Union MK Salah Saad has stated that he intends to continue the petition he helped initiate against the nationality law in the High Court of Justice.
The United States Senate has just passed the National Defense Authorization Act with a massive margin of 87 to 10, and inside it includes $550 million for Israel. Now, the $716 billion defense allocation bill only needs President Trump's signature to go into effect. The money allocated to Israeli defense was split at $500 million for missile defense cooperation between Israel and the United States, and $50 million for defense against terror tunnels. AIPAC lauded the passage of the bill, which details how the United States will arm Israel with precision-guided munitions in the event of sustained armed confrontation between Israel and Hamas and/or Hezbollah. In return, the United States will procure $80 million worth of munitions and will both procure and will help continue to develop missile defense programs like the Arrow 3, David Sling, and Iron Dome.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.